Christopher Columbus arrived in the Americas in 1492. This event changed everything.
Native people had lived on the land for centuries. They had their own cultures and ways of life.
Columbus's arrival marked the beginning of the end for many of these societies.
Europeans brought diseases with them. Native people had no immunity. Smallpox, measles, and influenza devastated native populations. Entire villages were wiped out.
This loss of life weakened native communities.
Europeans also sought wealth and land. They saw the Americas as a resource to exploit. This led to conflict with native people.
Europeans used their superior weapons to gain control. They forced native people into slavery. They took their land.
The arrival of Europeans marked a turning point. It was the start of a long and brutal period for the indigenous people of the Americas. Their world was about to be turned upside down. The consequences of this encounter would resonate for centuries to come.
Europeans began to establish colonies in the Americas. They wanted to control the land and its resources.
The English, French, Spanish, and Portuguese all competed for territory. They pushed further into the continent. This brought them into direct conflict with Native Americans.
The colonists believed in their own superiority. They saw Native Americans as savages. They justified their actions through this belief. They took land that was not theirs. They forced Native people to assimilate.
Resistance was met with violence. Native Americans fought back against the colonists. They defended their homes and their way of life.
Leaders like Metacomet and Geronimo became symbols of resistance. They won some battles, but the colonists were relentless. They had more resources and manpower.
The establishment of colonies set the stage for a long and bloody struggle. It was a clash of cultures and ideologies.
The consequences of this conflict would shape the future of the United States.
The United States declared its independence in 1776. It was a young nation eager to expand.
The idea of manifest destiny emerged. Americans believed it was their God-given right to control the land from coast to coast. This belief fueled westward expansion.
The Louisiana Purchase in 1803 doubled the size of the U.S. It opened up vast territories west of the Mississippi River. Americans poured into these lands. They sought new opportunities. They also brought their beliefs of superiority with them.
Westward expansion had a devastating impact on Native Americans. The Trail of Tears is one example. In the 1830s, thousands of Cherokee people were forcibly removed from their homes in the southeast. They were marched west to Oklahoma. Many died along the way.
Manifest destiny became a rallying cry. It justified the taking of Native American land. It fueled the growth of the United States. But this expansion came at a great human cost.
The destruction of the buffalo herds had a devastating impact on Native Americans. The buffalo were their lifeline. They provided food, clothing, and shelter. White hunters slaughtered the buffalo to near extinction. This broke the spirit of many tribes. The displacement of Native Americans was a tragedy. They were robbed of their land, their culture, and their way of life. The consequences of this forced removal are still felt today. Native Americans were forced onto reservations. These were often small and undesirable lands. The reservation system was designed to control us. We were not allowed to leave without permission. We were dependent on the government for food and supplies. This system led to poverty and despair. Section 4. Broken treaties, shattered lives, displacement of Native Americans. The U.S. government signed treaties with Native American tribes. These treaties were often broken. The government wanted more land for settlers. The United States was built on land taken from Native Americans. It's a history that cannot be ignored. It's a history that needs to be acknowledged and understood. Only then can healing begin. The story of the United States is a complex one. It's a story of triumph and tragedy. It's a story that reminds us that the pursuit of liberty and justice for all is an ongoing struggle. The legacy of colonialism continues to this day. Native Americans still face challenges. They experience higher rates of poverty, health problems, and unemployment. The trauma of the past continues to affect generations. The fight for recognition and justice continues. Section 5. The long shadow of colonialism. Lasting impacts and the shape of a nation. The colonization of America had a profound impact on indigenous people. They were victims of violence, disease, and displacement. Their cultures were suppressed. Their land was stolen,